Alright guys, Kremp again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Dramatic day as we now have 4 teams remaining going into the Championship Sunday, if you want to call it that, of the CDL Minor 1. OpTic versus Boston, dramatic again. What is it with these two teams always seemingly going to Game 5? Are Boston just that good, or do OpTic have some serious work still needing to be done? But they survive a scare. They will play Ravens in the next round, who got over a dramatic series again, and a controversial one at that, against none other than the Cloud9 New York. Sib snaking, big drama emerging. Lots going on elsewhere as well. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Today it was so long and so late and so delayed that we're going to do Thieves versus FaZe tomorrow morning. But we've got 3 banger series to go through here, all of which went to Game 5, all of which, of course, there was some sort of delay going on. Starting with this, I thought it was kind of funny that they're calling this the quick scope, given the fact that the snipers are GA'd, but fair play, the CDL is at least trying something to innovate. It might not be great, it might not be like, wow, this is absolutely sensational, the CDL's really moving in the right direction with all the problems they're currently facing, but to be fair, it's a cool thing. They're streaming a new feed, so if you guys want to have, while you're watching the main stream, the full stat and the minimap up the entire time, you're welcome to do it. Now, when this was first happening anyway, this is pretty much what it looked like, and it can definitely be better than this. I mean, it's kind of good to see what's happening, but I think the minimap is probably the main thing that people want to see enlarged, and for some reason they still have the full screen version, so the minimap on here is barely any larger than it actually is on the main broadcast. So I think what they need to do is probably swap that around, so at least on this cam in the bottom right hand side, it's just all minimap. Then I think that'd be pretty good. Rambo Ray would be loving it. You guys remember that, of course, he was getting roasted because he wanted to do minimap only scrim reviews. So yeah, this stream, maybe Rambo Ray had a word, they got the job done. But we've got to talk about this series because Ultra versus Rocker was a banger. And again, a lot of these series had technical issues, technical delays, kind of checking out some of the players. But it's not like this is a major tournament, but I do think that players have been going harder for these games than they have been for the regular league matches. Maybe they've been going harder because of what Shotzzy's been saying over the last couple of days, I don't know. But the reality is, they have been trying. Look, if you don't win, you miss out on some CDL points, which could be very valuable, to be fair, at the end of the season. Only the winner makes any money. But I do think that these games, it's better to watch this than it is to watch regular league matches, in my opinion. It might not be much better. It's still online cards. It's still got problems. The game is still broken. But I do think I prefer watching this in tournament play than I do regular league matches. I think it's, you know, the teams seem to be trying harder. The matches seem to mean more as well, and you know, maybe it's not as good as I hoped it might be, but in my opinion it is still better than what we've done over the last couple of years. This game 1 though, Ultra get the job done, mainly because CleanX had a monster of a game 1, then they won the game 2 as well, so it looked like, you know, business as usual, Ultra getting the job done. They won another search and destroy, took this one 6-1. PaulX, yeah, not the best map from him here on the protocol, and on the control, they probably, well, they should have won this one as well. This was arguably an unforgivable round loss here. Insight, as you can see in this clip, literally had a cruise missile in hand if he wanted to use it. He decided not to. Geo gets 2, he gets 3, Nero gets 1, and all of a sudden, Rocker managed to win the 2 versus 7 and close out the game 3. So, you know, again, we talked about this with this Rocker team. They might not be great. Look, they actually might be, on this evidence, okay. But they have some serious determination, don't they? They never believe they're out of it. And Insight, even after the series, says, I was so locked in I didn't even realize I had the cruise missile on. So that was an absolute disaster. Really, Ultra coulda, shoulda closed it out in 4, in 3, right about there. And then in the game 4, they were looking pretty good. Up 50 in the hard points. And then the game crashes. They replay it from scratch, and on the replay situation, and we can see, I think they tried to get back into this lobby so many times. CleanX was mind blown. Everyone was getting checked out, to be honest. The game is just so broken. It's super frustrating to witness. But in the end, Rocker then took the game 4, and then they close it out in 5 for another reverse sweep, their second one in a row. So great stuff, fair play from Rocker, like really impressed by the way that they came back in this one. I think Nero, Geo and Estriel have all, to be fair to them, been showing the promise that we expected. PaulX hasn't. you know, maybe I was hoping for a bit more from Paul, but Nero and Geo, we know how good they were last year. Nero's been showing up basically every single series. Estriel and Geo have been pretty hit or miss, but I think this series especially was the first series, I would say, really of the year where Estriel really has come to play, especially given what we saw from him at the end of last year in the Los Angeles Guerrillas. Of course, Toronto, they're not happy with this result. They were very much hoping to get to top 4 and beyond, but as I said, single elim online tourney, there's always going to be upsets, and with all the online cheese and the delays and stuff, he seems to be implying here it might not be, you know, the fairest outcome, the fairest results, but, you know, Rocker, they delivered the goods. Great series, especially from Estriel and Nero, I thought, on the other side of things. But let's dive into this OpTic series, because this was really fascinating, especially after everything that Shotzzy has had to say over the last few years, roasting everybody under the sun, saying that he's only going to tip the top teams. When is somebody going to start trying it? When is somebody going to start shooting back? But to be fair, they got pushed pretty hard by the Falcons yesterday, and every time they play Boston for some reason, the last like 6 times they've played Boston, 5 of them have gone to game 5, and the same story happens here yet again. So for some reason, at least online, Boston are looking very good against OpTic, but maybe Boston are just pretty good. They do seem to be a team to me that is greater than the sum of their parts, and I'm genuinely pretty impressed with Boston. They've got some work to do. They've got some things to improve on, but I don't think this series was just OpTic playing. Look, I don't think OpTic felt like they'd have been at the level that they wanted to be at, but still, I don't think OpTic played badly this series. I think Boston are just actually pretty damn good. There's a reason why they got a bye into the second round at the end of the day. The Hacienda was an absolute bang out. OpTic, I'm pretty sure, thought they had this one locked up. There was no surprise to me that Dashy was, you know, 1.5 KD, 2 minutes in the hill. We've seen this in scrims over the last couple of weeks, but Snoopy, he goes around the outside of the map, pops a disgusting 3-piece, gets Boston back into the game, and look, at times, Snoopy, he plays like Shotzzy, but he doesn't deliver quite what Shotzzy delivers, but I was hoping that Snoopy would be, this year, have a bit of a breakout season. Obviously, he's been around now for some time, but after what happened last year on Boston, the project still committed to him as the star piece, and you know, this year has to be his year to turn it up. And I think so far he's proven that the decision to build everything around Snoopy over the last 18 months or so has maybe been the correct decision. Now, it's tough to say because, you know, to do this, they got rid of Slasher and many others over the last year or so, but maybe their decision in the very long term will prove to be a good idea. So Boston end up stealing the game 1. I don't think OpTic thought they were going to lose this one. Awakening got a stinker, but they still got the job done, Boston. So all of a sudden it's like, hang on a second, this is getting interesting. But to be fair to OpTic, they bounced back and won the search and destroy. Kenny, I think he probably should have hopped the bomb in this round that they just lost. But to be fair, Kenny was like the man hard carrying them in these situations anyway. So, and then Dashy found himself in a 1 versus 2, and how many times have we seen exactly something like this from Dashy? Down 2-1 in round count at the time, pretty important rounds. Dashy gets 1, Dashy gets 2, and closes out the 2-2, and eventually opt to go on to win the search and destroy. So I think it's a big deal that OpTic are looking better in their search and destroy. I think that Huke has played a part in that. There's no doubt in my mind that Huke has been a factor in play, because we know that Pred in search and destroy wasn't always the strongest, and Kenny online certainly isn't. OpTic's respawn, especially on LAN, I don't think is ever going to be too much of a problem, but it is the search and destroy that is probably most relevant, and I think that OpTic fans, yeah, you might not be very happy about the way that OpTic played this series. I think OpTic fans can be relatively satisfied about the way their search is looking with Huke, because if they can do that on LAN, you know, you need to have good search and destroy to win tournaments, and I think OpTic are looking pretty good in that situation right now. Their respawn, though, is questionable. A very underwhelming and surprising map here from Dashy. The fact that Boston won 2 offenses on Protocol. Protocol control, to be fair, is quite horrific to watch. I will say the pros might have been onto something when all they were doing was playing Vault at the start of the season. Game 4 then, Protocol hardpoint. This time OpTic get the job done. It was kind of in the middle of the game here where Dashy started to take over. Shotzzy and Huke had a good time as well. And I think it's been, again, some serious inconsistencies from Kenny, and he certainly recognises that. But when Kenny is required to deliver, that's pretty much what he does. And in the game 5, that's exactly what was necessary here. OpTic started well, Boston mounted a bit of a comeback, and then all of a sudden it was getting really tense, honestly. This round was pretty mega, 2 versus 2. Kenny hops the defuse, and Huke manages to do the job just long enough. He actually gets caught and shot in the back, but Kenny sticks it, makes the right play, and with about half a second to spare, gets the 5-3 lead. We know that the 5-3 curse, though, is absolutely possible, but in the end, OpTic do find a way to close this one out. It was tight. I mean, look at the way that this game ended here. I know that Shotzzy's been talking a lot of trash, but you know, he's obviously got to make sure he still locks in, because dying in that way to Awakening and relying on Kenny winning that gunfight to close out the series, that definitely got OpTic off guard. I mean, look at the reaction here from Kenny, from Shotzzy. I was like, oh my god, I cannot believe it took that for us to win the series in close fashion. So to be fair to Shotzzy, not his best day. I can't believe it took that for us to close out the series, but to be fair to Shotzzy, not his best day, but he did say and give some gas to Boston. GG's Boston, 1-3-2. Finally, someone is actually trying, right? So yeah, after all the comments over the last couple of days, he really couldn't afford to lose this series, and well, he didn't. And as Dashy says, Kenny clutched up game 5, right? So we know that it's been Dashy, Shotzzy, and then occasionally Huke really delivering online, and Huke had a good series here as well, but Kenny again found a way to be very important when it really mattered. So OpTic win 3-2. Not easy by any means, but right now with Boston looking pretty good the way that they are, that's a solid result. Awakening with a bit of a stinker though. Snoopy, good series. Purge, like both of those guys, very much impressed me so far. But yeah, Big Wake still continues to look like Big Wake from last year. And if that continues, Boston might be really good if they've got an AR who's going to actually shoot back. But yeah, there were some gunfights that Awakening wasn't winning that he probably should have done, but it's not like he dropped 0 damage or anything to quite that effect. The final series I want to talk about here, FaZe versus Thieves, definitely very interesting. We'll get to tomorrow morning. Is Cloud9 versus Ravens. They played online. I keep saying online. I mean, this is online. But they played in qualifiers a couple of weeks ago before Christmas. Ravens reverse swept them to win in 5. And, well, as soon as I saw this, I was admittedly praying for Cloud9's downfall. Like, it doesn't get much more egregious than this. Sib, we know that he's got the lowest hardpoint KD in the entire league at the moment, and he still managed to go negative this map anyway. But look at him go. I mean, this is as blatant as it gets. This isn't like, oh, sorry, I accidentally snaked. This is, Sib is up and down, up and down, up and down as many times as you like. So, you know, obviously Ravens couldn't do anything in that moment. Would it have really made any difference in terms of breaking the hardpoint? Not necessarily, but it definitely riled up a bit of controversy. Of course, Zuma gave Sib the red card. Is there going to be any repercussions for this? I know that was a talking point as well. Jake Hales was like, here we go. We're going to get some tweets about this. Is anyone going to do anything? I don't know, but I know there was lots of support at the time for the Ravens because people wanted to see the downfall of Cloud9 and Sib after all of this stuff. Look, Sib's a talented player, but there are many decisions, I would say, that he makes that don't make him the best friend of the community. And this, I thought, was another example. So Cloud9, they take the game 1 win, 250-239. Ravens then bounce back in the search and destroy. Again, we know that Ravens search and destroy, especially with TJ and Slasher, is always going to be very good. The control was very interesting. Ravens eventually took this one in 5. It was actually really competitive. Sib nearly made a play to win it at the end, but again, he was negative. And look at these numbers. Going into map 4, Sib with the worst KD in the entire league of all the players, which is still remarkable. And on the game 4, he did okay, better than a 0.75, but still not in the positive, still not the maps that we might have typically expected to see. Banger map though, again, it's a Skyline hardpoint, it is going to be what it is. Attached with some real takeover moments here for maybe the first time in the season we've actually seen that, to be honest. And then we had a game 5, and man, this was a game 5. 3-0 to Cloud9 early doors, but I never felt like Ravens were fully out of it. Then there was some replay cheese, the game had to be reset, they put the numbers up on the stream, like an absolute shambles, obviously. But Ravens were clawing their way back into this game, they got it back to 2-4, and all of a sudden, they got it back to 5-5, and kind of the last 2 rounds pretty much played out exactly the same way. Again, this, I mean, to be fair, Mack could have clutched this one. It was actually very much winnable, I think, for Mack. He hopped up top middle, went for the flank, but actually they were watching it, and eventually Ravens pull off the 5-3 comeback game 5 to close it out in round 11. Banger series, banger results. and certainly the result that many were wanting after the snaking drama from Sib, as Saint says, the coach of the Ravens. GG's Cloud9 won 3-2 snakes. Play OpTic tomorrow for a spot in the finals. TJ was talking about it as well. And that's pretty much where we're going to leave it for today. Thieves versus FaZe is currently going on as I'm watching this at about 2:20 in the morning. Lots of delays. That's online COD, I guess. But Ravens, Rocker, OpTic, +1 in your grand finals. We'll talk about everything you need to know tomorrow morning. But very much interested in your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.